So I still remember taking the bus to school every single morning as a teenager. And as the bus was driving through the streets of Copenhagen, I'd look out through the windows and I look into all these tiny, cozy coffee shops, in the streets of Copenhagen that the bus was passing by. And I look into these little coffee shops and see all these people with headphones in their ears and a cup of coffee in their hand and essentially just working on their laptop in these cafes. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know exactly what it is these people are doing, but if they can get by, like if they can pay for their rent and put food on the table by doing whatever it is they're doing on these laptops, then I think that's a life that I'd like to live. Now, fast forward a decade and a half, and well, I've definitely spent a lot of time working on my laptop. In fact, today I run 5 different businesses pretty much entirely from my computer, and yes, I can do it from anywhere at any time. But there's one of these businesses in particular which I define as my $80,000 a month, I should say, side business, and that's the one I want to talk to you about today. Why? Well, because this $80,000 a month side business only takes me 1 to 2 hours per day to run. And well, that's pretty different from some of my other businesses, which take me a lot more time to run. Oh, and by the way, that's exactly the business that I'm going to be breaking down for you in detail today. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Sander Stage and I'm a 23-year-old. Here it comes. Here it comes. Millionaire online entrepreneur. He said it. I can't believe it. Anyway, that's the truth. So let's get into it. Now, before we dive into my $80,000 a month side business, I actually want to do something funny. Okay, so what I've done here, as you can see on the paper, is I've made a list of my 5 businesses. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say it now. There might be some ugly drawings in this video. Don't mind that, I'm not an artist. But what I want to do right now is actually just take you through what each of my 5 businesses is making me and what each of those 5 businesses is taking me in terms of time. Okay, and then based on the numbers that I'm going to write here, you can try and guess what kind of business it is. Now, business number 1, and you're gonna laugh, this is gonna get funny now. Business number 1 has made me a negative $50,000 so far, okay? Yep, you got that right. I have lost $50,000 on business number 1 so far. And in terms of how much it's taking me, well, take a wild guess, 10 plus hours per day. But before you get scared, I should preface, it's actually not me spending 10 hours per day on this business, it's my co-founder, okay? So I currently have a co-founder who is spending around 10 hours a day, sometimes more, on building this business. And so far, I am $50,000 down on this thing. I'll reveal what each of the businesses are at the end, but for now, let's continue. So business number 2 makes me roughly 70K, okay, per month. And it takes me 8 plus hours per day. Okay, now, and I just want to keep things honest with you. Once again, I should say it is actually not me spending 8 hours per day on business number 2. That is one of my other co-founders on this other business. Okay, so this one is generating 70K a month passively in what we call monthly recurring revenue. And it's taking roughly 8 hours of work and management and improvement and development per day. I might have said a little bit more than I should right there, but maybe you can guess what this one is. Okay, now moving on to business number 3, and you're going to continue laughing because business number 3 has made me a total of, well, minus $30,000. Okay, and in terms of how much it's taking me, well, it's actually taking me 0 because for the past couple months I haven't been prioritizing this one, and a little bit later when I reveal what it is, you'll actually understand why I haven't been able to prioritize it, or rather why I haven't wanted to prioritize it. Now we're gonna get into the funny ones. Now we're gonna get into the good stuff. So far, if you quit the video right now, you might think that I'm just a horrible entrepreneur who can only create businesses that lose money. But now we're gonna get into the good stuff. Okay, so business number 4 is making me anywhere between 200 to 600K per month. Okay, so that's a lot of money. This is by far my most profitable business, and it's a business that has made me the most money in my life. We're talking over $10 million in net profit with this business. Okay, so that's a lot. Maybe you can guess what it is. It has really high profit margins. Now, in terms of how much this takes me, I would say on average, it takes me 3 hours per day to manage it. But I should preface again that in some periods, okay, it can take a lot more. Okay, when I'm doing some heavy development or when I'm revamping this thing, like a new generation of it, I can sometimes work 12 hours per day on this thing. But on average, on a day-to-day basis, it's taking me around 3 hours of management and growth per day. Now, finally, for the famous side business, okay, we have business number 5, which is making me on average 80,000 per month. Okay, this one, my side business, only takes me 1 to 2 hours per day. Okay, and this is by far my favorite online business model for anyone who is just starting out. Okay, I absolutely love this business model, and that's the one we're going to take a deep dive into today. But before we do that, as promised, I'm going to reveal what each of these businesses are now, and perhaps you got some of them right. Okay, so just a quick rapid fire round. Business number 1 is a desktop app that I'm developing with one of my co-founders. Okay, and so that's why it is currently in a negative 50K, because, well, that's how much I've invested in the development and, well, all the different expenses that have gone into actually creating this thing so far. We're around 6 months into development, and we hope to launch it in about a month from now. But as you can see, my co-founder is putting a lot of time into building this thing. Okay, so it's a desktop app that you'll actually be able to download. Now, number 2 is what we call a white label SaaS. Okay, and by the way, I should actually say, so number 1 is going to be called Flare, and for number 2, my white label SaaS, well, it's called Buildable, and some of you will already have heard of it. So what a white label SaaS is, well, it's a software, right? A software as a service that is built on existing technology that somebody else has already developed the foundation of, but then we've been able to build on top of that. So when you actually enter Buildable, the entire UI is customized, and we've custom developed that ourselves, so you won't actually be able to recognize it from the original source, and it's been improved so much. We provide 24/7 support for our customers, etc., which is something that the white label platform just doesn't do. So it's a much better version of, well, the technology that it's built on, but essentially it's a white label SaaS. Now, number 3, which is the business that I've lost roughly 30K on and that I'm currently spending 0 hours per day on, well, that's my clothing brand Atwas, which is a clothing brand that does really, really high quality clothes manufactured in Italy. And that's just sort of a passion project for me. We produce one sort of cashmere cardigan with some fur in the neckline. It was extremely expensive to produce, and so and we created a company in Italy for it and everything, so it was quite complex, and so I put a lot of money in the drain on that one. Let's just put it that way. And I'm currently not prioritizing it because it's a passion project, and I have more important things to focus on right now. Now, business number 4 is probably the one that most of you got right in terms of your guesses. At least if you guessed that it was an online course or online courses, then you are right. So business number 4 is the business that has made me the most money ever, so more than $10 million. And at the peak, I've actually scaled this thing to around 700K per month. But on average, I'm just gonna say between 2 to 600K a month, okay? And that's my online courses. I created my first online course 6 years ago, and since then I've had thousands and thousands of paid students and thousands of happy paying students that I've actually transformed the lives of. I think online courses are demonized in many ways. A lot of people hate on online courses, but I think it's an absolutely beautiful thing that you can impact thousands of people with. It's essentially like coaching somebody one-to-one, but you just scale it because you productize your knowledge into something that, well, you can impact thousands of people with. So I absolutely love online courses. It's one of my favorite online business models. But finally, moving on to business number 5, my famous 80K a month side business. Well, this is what we call an IPGA. Okay, so this stands for Info Product Growth Agency. And some of you may already have heard of IPGA. It's actually a term or a name, actually a business model that I invented and popularized around a year and a half ago. And in my opinion, it is by far the best online business model you can get into as a beginner this year, last year, next year as well. I think this will be the best online business model you can start probably for the next 2-3 years forward. And I'm going to explain why by giving you a very specific example. So let me turn the pages here. So essentially, I just came back from a client trip in Cannes, okay? I don't know if you're French, Cannes would make sense. If you're American, Cannes maybe wouldn't make sense. Cannes is in the south of France, okay? It's close to Saint-Tropez. And essentially I went to Cannes to meet with one of my newest clients, okay, who has paid me, get this, okay, $140,000 plus 12.5% profit share, okay? Now, why has he paid me this? Well, to help him create, launch, and scale an online course. You see, my client is a very, very high-level consultant. He consults for some of the biggest consumer goods companies on earth. And in fact, he doesn't take on clients unless they have a turnover of a minimum of $10 billion per year, okay? That's quite a lot. 10 billion, okay, get that. So it goes without saying, this client of mine, this consultant, is obviously making really good money in his business by working with some of the biggest consumer goods companies in the world. However, his problem is that he does not have enough free time. Okay, he has kids, he has a family, and he has personal goals of his that he doesn't feel like he has enough time to focus on because, well, this consulting business is taking all of his time. And so essentially what he needs to do, okay, is to scale his impact / his brain, right? Because he's extremely knowledgeable, okay? And he's already trained up his team of roughly 10 people to be able to carry out most of the service delivery for him. But he tells me he still needs to be quite involved in every single client corporation. And so the result of this is, well, they're the best in the world at what they do, and they get hundreds of requests from clients and huge companies that want to work with them every month, but they have to turn them down because they don't really have a way to scale their service delivery further. And so this brings us back to the main point, which is he wants to create, launch, and scale an online course. And that's exactly what I offer help with as an IPGA. Me, as an IPGA, can help him do that, and as a result, he will be able to scale his impact, and then he will have more free time, okay? And then he can be even happier. That actually looks a little bit sinister. Apologies for that. And I warned you about the bad drawings, okay? So don't judge my drawing. And really, that's the gist of it with most clients. You know, they might be high-level consultants, or they might be something entirely else. They might be professional fitness coach, or professional at fishing, or professional interior designers, which is actually something we're gonna get back to in a second. And maybe they don't have enough free time, or maybe they just wanna make extra money. And so they need to scale their brain and their impact in an exponential way, okay? A way that doesn't rely, you know, on them trading time for money, but in a way where they can actually just productize everything they know into an online course that we as an IPGA can then help them create, well, launch and scale, essentially. One of my points here is that in simple terms, that's how business works. If you want to make money, you got to find a way to solve people's problems. And if you want to make a lot of money easily, well, then ideally you should find a way to solve rich people's problems. And this right here, IPGA, okay, which is what I classify myself as, well, my 80K a month side business, that is a great way of solving problems of rich people, because I guarantee you there are millions of people like this client right here out there in the world who are really good at what they do. They have 1, 2, 3, or 4 decades of experience, and they want to turn whatever they know into an online course, okay, that they can create, launch, and scale, but they have no idea where to start or how to do it. And that's where we as IPGAs come in and help them. There's a huge demand for this, but the supply of IPGA services out there is still really, really low. And that comes back to, well, why was I able to charge this guy $140,000 plus a 12.5% profit share on all the course sales that I'm actually gonna, well, essentially all the course sales we're gonna make with this course, I'm gonna take 12.5% of that, okay? And he has a pretty big audience already because, as said, he's one of the best in the world at what he does. So that might turn out to make me another 50 to 100K a month if we scale this as far as I think we can. Anyway, on the low end, it will make me at least 20K a month just from the profit share. Oh, and also just to be fully transparent with you, it was supposed to be 140K upfront, but yeah, he couldn't do it all in one wire transfer because it's a pretty big wire transfer. So I'll just throw up a screenshot of the first of the wire transfer that just came in. And well, the rest of the money is coming in over the next coming days. But the first wire transfer was for just over 50,000 Swiss francs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because the original deal was 125,000 Swiss francs, which translates to roughly $140,000. But anyway, you can see the first of the payments that just came in right here. Well, and also later in the video, I'll explain to you why I'm still doing IPGA, this side business, when my online courses are actually just making me so much more money. You understand later, okay? But for now, let's zoom in on some of the things that make IPGA great and, well, essentially why I think you should start one. Reason number one that IPGA is great is that it's super high leverage. Sure, there's quite a few things that you need to understand in order to do IPGA, and actually that makes it sound more complex than it is because you can learn these things quite quickly. But the point is, once you know these things, once you understand these things, then IPGA is super high leverage. What I mean by that is, you know, you're not a commodity when you're doing IPGA. You're actually delivering a pretty rare service that people are in desperate need of. And so once you know how to carry out these, you know, services or aspects of the service for your clients, then a little bit of your advice or like a little bit of your work that you do for a client can end up making this client $100,000 or $1 million. And so your clients are not going to be asking you, well, how many hours did you spend doing that? I don't want to pay you that much money if you only spend 2 hours. I've never gotten this kind of question from a client because they understand that this is a, as they say in French, savoir-faire. This is it's a handcraft. They understand that, so they don't really care how many hours you spend doing the work. All they care about is the transformation that you help produce for them, right? That you're taking them from where they currently are, which is maybe they're probably making good money already, they have good clients or they're good at what they do, but they don't have enough free time, right? And they want to make more money and they want to scale their impact. And that's the transformation that we enable the creation of for these clients. In fact, let me better explain by just giving you an example right here. Okay, so inside of our community, our IPGA community, we have these 2 guys called Sebastian and Emil. This is not a random name, by the way. These are their actual names, Sebastian and Emil, and they started their IPGA together, essentially as a team, okay? Now, shortly after starting their IPGA, Sebastian and Emil signed on one of their first clients, which is an interior designer, okay? So she's a woman from Holland and she's been a practicing, or however you say it, a professional interior designer for a long time, okay? She is, I'm scared of what I say here. I don't want to call her old, but she's not young either. She's a professional interior designer with probably a couple of decades of experience. And not only is she a professional interior designer, she's also been posting about her interior design work for years now. And so she's actually amassed a pretty good following on Instagram about people that are interested in interior design. Mostly the followers that she's been gaining on Instagram are women, so often family women that are interested in interior design. We're talking often women that are wanting to DIY, so do it yourself, on their own home interior design. And so she started realizing, well, there's a huge demand from my audience in terms of like these people, they want help. Okay, so this audience, they want help with how they can DIY their interior design, but they have no idea how to start. Just like the client here had no idea how to, well, enable that. She had no idea how to create an online course. And again, that's where Sebastian and Emil come into play as IPGAs, because they help her do that. So essentially, to make a long story short, Sebastian and Emil help this client turn her knowledge into an online course, okay, about how to DIY your own interior design for your own home, okay, targeted at these family women that were already in her audience. And get this is the good part, okay? They launched the course. So in 5 days, okay, the course made, get this, 166,000 euros in course sales, or roughly $170,000. Okay, now this leads us back to Sebastian and Emil because they have a profit share, and with this client, they actually had a pretty high profit share of exactly 30%. Okay, so that means that they get 30% of the course sales that they help this client make, and so that obviously equals, well, over $50,000 in profit share for Sebastian and Emil. And so hopefully that puts my point about why IPGA is super high leverage into perspective, right? Do you think this client asked Sebastian and Emil how much time they spent doing the work? No, she doesn't care. All she knows is she's an interior designer with an audience. This audience has a demand, they're interested in her knowledge, and Sebastian and Emil helped facilitate the creation, well, the process of turning her knowledge, her brain essentially, into an online course that her audience could buy access to. And within 5 days of launching it, they did over $170,000 in course sales, of which Sebastian and Emil got 30%. And I actually didn't ask Sebastian and Emil what their setup fee was. Like for example, with the client that I just flew to south of France to meet, he paid me $140,000 setup fee. I actually didn't ask Sebastian and Emil what setup fee they got from this client, but I would imagine it was a pretty cool one. To give you another example, a couple weeks ago, I signed another new IPGA client that paid me 20,000 euros, so roughly $25,000 upfront for just a little bit of consulting. I'll actually throw up the Wise wire transfer. I use Wise sometimes for wire transfers. It's like a side bank, if you will. Talking about side business, Wise is a side bank for me, and I got the 20k euro wire in on Wise, as my editor will throw up on the screen right now. So anyway, the point was that 20,000 euro is just for a little bit of consulting. So again, that shows you how high leverage this is, because in 1 hour of consulting, I can give advice that is worth $50,000, $100,000 to my client. And in a couple of months of working with the client, well, we can create $1 million business. So again, it's high leverage because they don't care how much time you spend doing the work. All you need is to know how to do these things, which again, you can learn pretty quickly. And then you have $1 million agency. I know that sounds simpler than done, but it's actually the truth. Now, the second reason IPGA is great, and this one is going to be a short and quick one, but it's going to be very easy for you to understand. But the second reason it's so great is that it compounds over time, right? So this 50,000 for Sebastian Emil in profit share that we just talked about, well, that was just in the first 5 days, right? But imagine scaling this client over time. Imagine she keeps making $100,000 per month consistently after launch. Well, that's 30K for Sebastian Emil consistently over time with one client. Now imagine you do that with 5 clients, it compounds on top of each other. So now if you have 5 clients and you've scaled each of their courses in widely different sectors to 100K a month each, and you're getting 20 or 30% of that, you're making over $100,000 per month in passive profit share without ever having to get behind the camera yourself. You're just helping them you're just facilitating at this point. You're just helping them create their courses and marketing them for them, which is actually pretty easy when you know how to do it. Now, the third and final reason that IPGA is so great comes back to what I said earlier, the question I asked, right? Which is, well, the question you might have in your mind, why am I still doing IPGA if my online courses are making me much more money? Well, it's because of reason number 3, and that is that I learn so much from doing IPGA. You see, I've worked with quite a few different IPGA clients now, and almost every time they're in a new industry. Like the client that I told you about before that paid me $140,000 plus 12.5% profit share. He's in the consumer goods industry, but in a very specific sector of that industry. And just from sitting there and looking at him record his course and from helping him structure the material, the VSL, etc., I've learned a lot about his industry. And so that goes for every single client. You can imagine with Sebastian Emil's interior design client here, they probably learned a lot about interior design and the business around interior design that they didn't know before working with this client. And so the point is, IPGA is not robotic. Like in the past, I used to do just SMA and I was just running ads for pretty basic businesses and I wasn't learning that much. It felt very robotic. But with IPGA, you're working with these very different clients and helping them create these courses. You're obviously not the one creating the course because it's their expertise, but you're helping them, facilitate. You're telling them, here's how you do the material, here's how you do the VSL, etc. And then, they might need help recording. Oftentimes they can do that themselves, and it's really not the important part of your service delivery. We'll get back to that in a second, but the point is you learn so much from working with these clients about so many different things, and so it stays interesting. And that's the reason I'm still doing IPGA. Even though my online courses are making more, I love doing IPGA, just working very closely, very tightly with a couple of clients that I can help scale their impact and make millions with them. So with all that said, if you wanted to start IPGA, well, how would you go about it? What would you have to learn? What would you have to study? What would be the first steps? Well, let's just start by sort of demystifying the value that we provide for our clients, because if we know what value we're providing for our clients, then we also understand why they're willing to pay us so much for it. So essentially, these are the skills that I would focus on learning if I was just getting into IPGA. Number 1, you got to understand good product and offer strategies in the info product space. So just look around, check different funnels. You can check my funnel, you can check other info product creators or course creators funnels. Look at how their funnel is structured. Look at how their offer is structured. How is their VSL looking? In case you didn't know, VSL stands for video sales letter. And so that's sort of the sales video that you'll find at the top of most online course. Here we go again, sales funnels. So just look around, figure out what's working. What are the best industry leaders currently doing? How are they marketing their courses? How are their funnels structured? Secondly, I start looking into organic marketing strategies. Again, look around on YouTube. You see me, you see other course creators. What kind of YouTube videos are they doing and what are they doing on Instagram? So start figuring out what kind of organic marketing strategies are working the best at the moment so you can actually tell your clients about this. Third would be paid ads. Okay, so you probably scroll Instagram sometimes. I think most of us are guilty of scrolling Instagram sometimes. Are you getting ads for online courses sometimes? Well, then check what kind of ads are working, what kind of ads are people running, and what seems to be working well. You can also go on Google and search for Facebook ads library, and on there you can actually search for the name of a specific creator and you can see exactly what ads they're actively running at the moment. And this is a great way to research, well, what kind of ads are working, because if you find the industry leaders of online courses in any sector and you see what kind of ads they're running, well, then you have a pretty good chance of understanding what kind of ads are actually working at the moment, because chances are they wouldn't be running the ads if they were losing them money. Now, finally, we have stuff like, video recording and editing, but honestly, I wouldn't fuss about this, okay? You're not, as an IPGA, you're not a videographer, okay? That's not your job. So when it comes to, your your clients recording their courses, you can tell them to use an online software for recording, or, like for example, what Sebastian and Emil did, they hired a professional crew to actually record it for her with professional equipment in her own home, right? And she obviously paid for that. I wouldn't stress too much about the recording part. You can always find a way to solve that. It's not the core part of your value proposition. Now, once you have the core of the knowledge that surrounds the service delivery, right? So products, courses, offers, funnels, you understand organic and paid marketing, and you understand just generally how it works, then it's all about signing clients. And I really want to stress here, you do not have to understand all of these things perfectly before you start signing clients. The most important is the mindset that you know that once you sign a client, then you'll do whatever it takes to figure out how to deliver an amazing service to them. Trust me, I still learn new stuff about funnels or offers or marketing every single time I take on a new client, because I have to adapt our strategies to that particular client and that particular industry that that client is in. And so the number one mistake that I see people make is that they think they need to know everything before they start taking on clients. This couldn't be further from the truth. Just get out there, do cold outreach on LinkedIn, for example. It's an outreach strategy that I really suggest you go for, because in LinkedIn is just a great place for this. You have so many corporate people, so many professionals that are dying to take what they know and turn it into an online course. So just start connecting with people, preferably in your local area or in your country, so you have at least that in common, right? You can just go on the suggested connections tab on LinkedIn and just start connecting with everybody that LinkedIn suggests you. And then once they accept your request, just start reaching out to them and say, hey, I have recently studied everything there is to know about, creating, launching, and scaling online courses. I saw what you're doing. I really love it. And I was wondering if you had ever consider turning that into an online course that we can scale out to thousands of students and make millions with. Of course, put that into your own words and make it sound good, but you get the point, right? Just connect with people in your local area or in your country that are professionals, that have some kind of skill or expertise that could be turned into an online course, and just reach out to them. Volume is key here, because I guarantee you that if you reach out to 100 people like that, you'll get responses from at least 20 of them. And out of those 20, you might set 5 meetings, and 3 of those meetings might actually become your paying clients. I've seen this happen time and time again. I cannot stress how easy it is to get IPGA clients, because the thing with IPGA is the service sells itself. Okay, it's not like trying to sell SMA, which, if you're trying to sell SMA services, or what is it called now, freelance brand scaling, as it's been popularized or repackaged as now, which I find so dumb. But anyway, you're one in a billion robots trying to sell the same service. Okay, and so you'll never get through, whether it's cold email or Looms or LinkedIn outreach, or you can try to make the outreach as fancy as you want, but if you're still doing SMA or freelance brand scaling in today's day and age, you're so far behind. You're one in a billion robots. But with IPGA, you're one in a couple of thousand that are actually providing the service and actually reaching out to people about this. And so they'll be thankful that you reached out to them. Actually, I believe one of our first student results when we launched the IPGA Masterclass was about that exact thing. It was somebody who had transitioned from SMA. I'll throw up the screenshot. And he said, it's crazy. I used to get so many F-offs when pitching my SMA services, and now my clients are thankful for me reaching out to them. It was something like that. Anyway, we have hundreds and hundreds of IPGA students, and they are signing hundreds and hundreds of clients that are paying them $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 upfront and 10, 20, 30% profit share. It has never been easier to sign clients than it is with IPGA. Like, the service just sells itself. So you don't have to do any fancy automated email outreach or get some crazy outreach systems. You don't even need a personal brand. You don't even need a website. This service sells itself. You can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it by going out into the street and finding some professionals with a suit on and asking them if they want to create an online course. It is extremely easy to sign IPGA clients. As a matter of fact, I'd love to just give you a quick win screenshot example from Rasmus, one of our Danish members inside of our community. He posted this the other day. So he said, the past 5 days have been crazy. All right, I've been running my IPGA full time since November. Last month I made $12,000. And in the past 5 days, I've secured setup fees totaling $16,000. And the profit share agreements range from 15 to 30%. I've hired my first full-time employee and leased my own 20 square meter office. Everything is possible in the IPGA space. So I guess that should be all the proof you need. And by the way, we have hundreds of result screenshots like this on our funnel. So there's no shortage of student wins. But anyway, I think my overarching point is, if you're broke, or not even necessarily broke, even just lost, or, trying to figure out what to do, and you're willing to work hard in order to build a business that you can not only make a lot of money from, but also learn a lot from building and having fun with it and building meaningful, deep relationships with amazing clients. Something that isn't a robotic service like SMA, but something that, again, you can actually grow in and that can create a career trajectory for you. That's a difficult word. Something that can be a launch pad for you to actually commence an amazing career, and something that will teach you some of the most valuable skill sets you can have in today's day and age of the online business space, well then IPGA is by far the best thing you can get into. And so I want to finish off with this question for you. If I dropped you into a business meeting right now, or even just a dinner with 10 moderately successful people in widely different industries, would you have something to contribute to that dinner conversation? Would you have something to offer that potentially multiple of these 10 people would actually be interested in buying? If the answer is no, well, then you need to stop wondering why you're not rich yet. And if the answer is yes, then my chances are you're probably already making money. My point is, IPGA is that thing, okay? If you learn the basics of IPGA, then I can drop you into any business meeting or any dinner with moderately successful people, and you will have something really unique to contribute to the conversation. Something that they will actually listen to and say, wow, that's so interesting. I've been working in my industry for 20 years, and for the last 5 years, I've considered turning into an online course. I just have no idea where to get started. Perhaps you could help me. IPGA is that thing that will make you interesting in that kind of conversation. IPGA is the thing that will make you have something valuable to contribute to that dinner conversation or that business meeting. It will actually make you attractive, not in terms of how you physically look, which I'm sure you're all beautiful. It'll make you attractive in terms of you actually have something valuable to offer. That's what IPGA is. That's why it's high leverage. That's why I love it. And that's it for today's video. Have an amazing evening or day or morning. See you. Bye.